Good day everyone. Today I will discuss the principles and function of temperature sensors and how to diagnose and fault checking of temperature sensors. What is coolant temperature sensor? A coolant temperature sensor is confined to the engine of a vehicle and measures the temperature of the vehicle's engine coolant. The sensor feeds this information back in the form of an electric current to the engine control unit. The ECU then responds to a change in the temperature difference and readjusts the engine's fuel injection. A coolant sensor is similar to a thermistor, based on the working principle that a change in electric resistance will be the direct product of the change in the temperature of a wire carrying unit current. The coolant temperature sensor is fastened to an intake manifold of an engine coolant and is often referred to as a negative temperature coefficient type of sensor. In terms of resistance capacity, this coolant sensor has 20,000 ohms at 248 degrees Fahrenheit. There is an inverse relationship between the electrical resistance and the engine coolant. A basic functional principle to a coolant temperature sensor begins with the ignition switch. When the ignition switch is on, a voltage passes through the resistor and heats it up. The resistor is connected to an electrical grid that behaves like a data logger, measuring the temperature differences of the resistor. In the event of air traveling through a vehicle engine, which can come as a result of heavy acceleration, the resistor 2 and the sensor starts to cool down and drops its resistance charge. To control and maintain a balance in the engine temperature, the coolant sensor detects the drop in electrical resistance and emits voltage to the resistor, a process that is completed in a space of milliseconds. It is important to monitor engine temperatures, as this will determine exactly how much fuel is to be injected into the engine. The engine control and monitoring unit assist in controlling the temperature of the engine by supplying 5 volts to the circuitry connected to a coolant temperature sensor, which allows for a measurement of change in the voltage drop between the resistor and the coolant temperature sensor. A standard test is performed in order to test whether the coolant temperature is working accurately. In order for a diagnosis, the ignition is switched off and the coolant temperature sensor connector is disconnected. An ohmmeter, electrical instrument to measure electrical resistor, is attached to the sensor terminal. The sensor can also be completely removed from the engine by submerged along within a thermometer into a water-filled container. Upon heating the water in the container, the sensor will demonstrate a particular resistance to a temperature change. It is advised to replace the sensor if it does not demonstrate a specified resistance to varying temperature. Another approach to measuring the specificity of the coolant temperature sensor is remove the radiator cap. Radiator cap is a part of vehicle's cooling system, and insert a thermometer into the radiator followed by starting the engine. By running the engine, the coolant begins to warm up, and as soon as the temperature hits 97 degrees Celsius, the fan should start running. If the fan still doesn't power up, the sensor then requires a full checkup. In order to check up the sensor, number 1 is the coolant is drained from the engine. Number 2, the ignition coil is removed. Number 3, the electrical connector is disconnected from the sensor. Number 4, the sensor is dipped along within a thermometer into a container to measure the electrical resistance of the sensor to varying temperature levels. What signs may signal your coolant temperature sensor may be failing, and how to diagnose and fault checking of temperature sensors. While a regular car maintenance should resolve many of these issues, additional work may needs to be done in order to properly service those small parts. These delicate parts include those within your cooling system. Problems can sometimes sneak up on you. Luckily, there are few key signs and ways that you can use to catch a failing coolant temperature sensor before it causes a major auto repair for your engine or transmission. Number 1. The pure fuel economy. Part of the coolant temperature sensor's job of accurately reporting your car's coolant temperature is to ensure the correct mixture of fuel is used. A higher ratio of fuel is used, the cooler the engine's temperature. So if your ECT is reporting a cool temperature when your engine is actually warm or hot, more fuel will be used than necessarily. A failing coolant temperature sensor will commonly report a cooler temperature than is accurate. Next one, number 2 is irregular temperature readings. If you notice more fluctuation in your engine's temperature, or it looks higher or lower than usual while you're driving, it could be the engine coolant temperature sensor. In particular, if your engine doesn't seem to be warming up as it typically does, you should have a mechanic to look your cooling system. While it could be a cooler outside temperatures, it is also likely that the temperature reported is inaccurate and lower than it is actual is. Next one, number 3 is the black smoke from your exhaust. Along within that fuel ratio being controlled by the coolant temperature sensors, if there's too much excess fuel being used, it may not be able to burn up in the combustion chamber. When this happens, you're likely to notice black smoke coming out from your exhaust because your remaining fuel is being burned off there instead. While a little bit of black smoke won't render your car undrivably, it is an indication that you should avoid driving your car and instead get to a professional mechanic for a cooling system repair service. Next one is your engine is overheating. While a failing engine coolant temperature sensor may give a permanent cold signal, it can also malfunction in a way that sends a hot signal when your engine temperature is safe. In this case, your car will tell you that your engine is overheating when it actually is, meaning you'll likely have a dashboard warning light on and your car may not operate properly. And last, your check engine light is on. Alongside the signal that your engine is overheating, you may see your check engine light come on if your coolant temperature sensor is failing or has failed. If your car's computer senses a problem with the signal your sensor is sending, it may trigger the check engine light. Regardless, your check engine light coming on is a sure sign you should have checked by a trusted mechanic. And that's all. Thank you.